People saw Hoshimi Miyabi in the early trailers from Zenless Zero, and people have been waiting for this character for years, and I think it is no exaggeration to say that she is the most hyped character to date. She has been reworked, she has been teased, she has had plastic eye surgery, and now she is finally upon us. The youngest Void Hunter of all time, Hoshimi Miyabi, is finally in Zenless Zero, and if you play her right, she is the strongest agent yet. But like Grandma used to say, with impressive strength comes a high skill ceiling. So let's reach that ceiling, folks. Before we begin, let me say that this is gonna be a long one. But if you're not interested in a long one, I have also condensed it down, kind of speedrun this guide. Link to a 3-minute version of this video in the description. Obviously, I don't go into as much detail, but I think I did an alright job of it. Also, there are timestamps all across this video if you wanna jump to, the disc sets, the teams, the rotations, the TLDR, etc. It is super convenient to do. Alright, on with the video. Hello friends, my name is Hako, and today I have the great pleasure of teaching you how to play Miyabi. She is the beautiful little fox lady you can see on screen, and she is actually really fun. I was in the very honored and privileged position to be able to play Miyabi extensively on the creator beta servers. And she is a lot of fun, and she's also kind of an easy to pick up but hard to master type of deal. So let's look into her. So first, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, which is Miyabi's element. Now, she's the frost element, and there was a lot of speculations and debate and rumors going around when Miyabi was announced, and we all saw that she had a special symbol for her eyes. So what is frost? For almost all intents and purposes in the game, frost is ice. Frost is a variation of the ice element, and anything that buffs ice will also buff frost. So a lot of people thought they were gonna have to farm separate discs 5 and whatnot, but no, anything that buffs frost will buff Miyabi. So a lighter's buff works, the 2-piece polar metal also works, but the unique thing about frost is that it can also react and create disorder with the ice element. So if you want to run another ice agent together with Miyabi, that will still be classed as a disorder team. And what's special is that frost can apply frost bite to an enemy, and enemies suffering from frost bite takes increased crit damage. So once again, plays into Miyabi's style of crit rate, crit damage. And as of right now, she's the only frost agent in the game. And before we move on, I want to take a little bit of a look at the stat board. We see 3 stats highlighted in yellow, and whenever a stat is in yellow, it kind of hints at that this is a very important stat for the agent. And Miyabi is an anomaly character. Usually, traditionally, anomaly characters are after anomaly proficiency and anomaly mastery. With Miyabi, we're instead hunting for crit rate and crit damage. And this is very unique for an anomaly character, and the reason is that Miyabi can actually turn her crit rate into frost anomaly build-up rate. And her big frost reaction is able to crit. That's why we wanna load a lot into the crit damage as well. Anomaly mastery and anomaly proficiency isn't wasted on her, but she gets a lot from her core skill, and we're not necessarily building for it. Instead, we get more performance, better performance, focusing on crit rate and crit damage. Now let's take a little bit of a look at Miyabi's skills, and first things first, Miyabi has a special resource, just like many other characters, called Fallen Frost. Now these stacks you can find up just below her portrait in the top left corner. Now, what do we use these stacks for? Let's talk about that first. Now, pay attention class, this will be on the written assignment. We use the Fallen Frost stacks with her basic attack, Shimotsuki. So, when you hold the attack button, Miyabi will grab the hilt of her sword and kind of start charging. She can charge this up to 3 times, and every level of it costs 2 stacks of Fallen Frost. So we need 6 Fallen Frost, which is what she caps out on. We need a full bar of Fallen Frost. Then we can charge this up to 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then we unleash hell. And I mean that literally, because this is Miyabi's hardest hitting attack. It is a basic attack, but this hits much harder than her EX special, and it hits much harder than her ultimate. This attack is her bread and butter, and mastering this one is your key to mastering Miyabi. And you always should use this on like the last, on like fully charged, so like stage 3. Because if we look here, stage 1, which will cost you 2 Frostfire charges, deals 900% damage. Stage 2, 1700% damage, which isn't even like the double of stage 1. But then we reach stage 3 and look at these damage multiplier numbers. 4282%. Always use stage 3 of her Shimotsuki. And also if we look at the days, like level 1 66, level 2 94, level 3 567% days. My dudes, always use stage 3 of Shimotsuki. And this amazing nuke of an attack is hidden behind the requirement of having 6 stacks of Fallen Frost. So that's what we're gonna be teaching you today. Like, you mastering Miyabi is very much you mastering how to accumulate these Fallen Frost as fast as possible and then spending them with Shimotsuki. This is her bread and butter. And her basic attack, Kazahana, is a 5-string hit with the 3rd hit onwards applying frost damage. And whenever Miyabi applies frost damage to an enemy, they will suffer from her very special status. And to learn more about that, we need to go to the core skill, core passive Searing Cold. When Hoshibi Miyabi deals frost damage, she applies ice fire to the target lasting 30 seconds. And when Miyabi does any sort of frost anomaly build-up against someone suffering from frost damage, that frost anomaly build-up rate will be increased by 100% of Miyabi's crit rate up to a maximum of 80%. So Miyabi's kind of breakpoint for crit rate, what she wants is 80. And once an enemy is fully inflicted by frost, they will be frostbitten, they will also freeze, and then eventually they will shatter. And like I said before, Miyabi's frost attribute can react even with ice elements to create a disorder effect. And when an enemy gets fully afflicted by frost, they will be frostbitten. And when that happens, Frostburn Break will occur on the enemy, and this is a big chunk of damage. And this deals frost damage equal to 1500% of Miyabi's attack and causing targets to enter the Frostburn state. Now there's a lot of terms being thrown around, but have no fear, we'll understand it all. And when an enemy is in the Frostburn state, all squad members accumulate 20% more anomaly build-up against that enemy that suffers from the frost burn. But Miyabi cannot like reapply ice fire to those enemies. So this is when where her role as a disorder agent comes in. So the way we always are supposed to play disorder teams is that your anomaly agents should kind of take turns reapplying the status. If you're running a Jane and Bernice team, for example, say that Jane goes first to trigger assault, then Bernice should trigger burn, then assault, then burn, then assault to keep the disorder going. It's, it's kind of a game of tag, you're it, you go. Although when you play tag with Miyabi, she actually helps out her teammate. So really capturing the essence of being the team leader. So say that you're running Miyabi together with Bernice, for example. When it becomes Bernice's time to go after Miyabi has triggered Frostbite, Bernice will have an even easier time to build up her burn on these enemies because they're suffering from the first frost burn effect. And as soon as the other anomaly agent has triggered their effect, whether it's burn or shock, the frostbite on the enemy will disappear and Miyabi can reapply a new one. So running Miyabi in a disorder team feels very efficient, it feels very seamless, and going back and playing any old school disorder team after this, kind of just feels slightly more clunky because Miyabi does really help out. And after Miyabi triggers frostbite and the frostburn break occurs, which is the big chunk of damage that scales off her attack and can also crit, Miyabi gains 1 point of Fallen Frost, although you can only gain 1 Fallen Frost every 10 seconds in this manner. And now for Miyabi's additional ability, Bask in Frost. So Ellen's additional ability you can disregard. There are certain teams nowadays that benefit them more than running her additional ability. That is not the case with Miyabi, and her additional ability is actually insane, and you should always make sure to have this one active. And in order to make this one active, you either need a character from Miyabi's squad, which is section 6, which is Sokaku, Yanagi, or Harumasa. Or you need a support character. So Rina, Sokaku, Nicole, etc. Lucy. If you have this active, basic attack Shimotsuki is increased by 60% in damage. And as just basic it, Shimotsuki is as strong as her ultimate in terms of damage. With this, it surpasses the ultimate by a lot. But we're not done there. Also, when any squad members triggers Disorder, Miyabi gains 2 points of Fallen Frost, and basic attack Shimotsuki during the next Shimotsuki stance will ignore 30% of the target's ice res. My dudes, this is actually insane. Like, the power of this additional ability could have been an M6. This is super strong. And like every single part of it is, so important. And playing her, like, never play her without having this one active. It isn't worth it. So as you can tell, Miyabi is very incentivized, like, be running disorder teams, which also means that one of her absolute best teammates is Yanagi, because Yanagi can, like, force trigger a disorder kind of whenever she wants if she has the energy. So now we learned of 2 ways to gain the Fallen Frost charges. She gains 1 point whenever she applies Frostburn Break, and then she also gains 2 points whenever anybody in the squad triggers Disorder. Now, there are some other ways to also trigger this. Let's take a look at them. So, usually, oddly enough, the special skill is, nothing special, and you shouldn't use it unless you have energy to turn it into an EX special. But Miyabi's special attack, Miyuki, actually does serve a little bit of a purpose. If we remember from the core skill, Searing Cold, whenever Miyabi deals frost damage, she applies Ice Fire to the target, and if that target is suffering from Ice Fire, the frost build-up will be greatly enhanced based on Miyabi's crit rate. So this is actually her fastest way to apply Ice Fire. So if we start content like in the HA, where you're not starting off with any energy, doing one swipe of the special attack used to apply the frost might actually be beneficial. But the real kicker is her EX special, Hisetsu. If you have enough energy, you press the special attack button, you will dash through the enemies and, like, do a series of slashes. This will give you 2 points of Fallen Frost. But now the fun doesn't end there. Just like Ellen's EX special, you can actually chain this together into another variation of the special if you have enough energy. So this move costs 40 energy. If you're sitting at like 40 more after having executed this, you can press the EX special again, and you will do a follow-up attack to your EX special. And this follow-up will do slightly more damage and also gain you 2 points of Fallen Frost. And now the key to really mastering Miyabi and, like, maxing out her potential is to never overstack on the Fallen Frost. So for example, if you're set at 4 points, you need 2 more to get the full 6, so you can do the fully charged Shimotsuki stance. It is better to only do 1 EX special and don't, press it again and have 2 Fallen Frost go to waste. It is then better to press it once, do the full Shimotsuki, then start attacking again, and once we're building up again, you can do it like a double one. You will set at 4, you pull in another character that triggers a disorder, you get 2 points from that, then with Shimotsuki again. The EX special attack Hisetsu is nice, but it is mostly a way to refill your Fallen Frost. The damage isn't that impressive if we compare it to, like, the Shimotsuki stance. Miyabi's real damage comes from the Shimotsuki stance, and it comes from her special Frostburn Break, and it comes from her ultimate. And kind of the hardest hitting one of them is the Shimotsuki stance, so that's what we want to be playing around. EX special should be viewed as a way to, like, manage the very precious resource we need to pull that off as consistently as possible. Now for Miyabi's chain attack, Spring Call, it's nothing super fancy. She comes in, she does a few slashes, bada bing, bada boom. But with her ultimate, this one is actually really freaking cool. So, when we have enough decibels to pull off an ultimate, and remember, when Miyabi drops, everybody's gonna have access to their own separate decibels, so every character is gonna see their ultimates, and, so will Miyabi. So when you click this, Miyabi will do a very fancy slash and strike, and this covers a very wide area. It deals a lot of frost to a lot of enemies, and, you'll probably frost break a bunch of enemies if there's a group of them. Important to note here is, not only does this do a bunch of damage and it applies frost, it also gives Miyabi 3 points of Fallen Frost and increases her ice damage by 30% for 12 seconds. This is absolutely massive. So after she's, like, not only is her ultimate a nuke, it is also a personal buff for her afterwards. And important here is that you will gain 3 points of Fallen Frost when you do this. Possibly 4 if you manage to like frostburn any enemy, so you can gain 1 point from doing that. So make sure that you're not overcapped on Fallen Frost before you do this. So that's it. That's the entire ways that you can gain Fallen Frost, which is gonna be Miyabi's bread and butter. 1 from the passive every 10 seconds whenever we inflict someone with Frostburn Break. 2 whenever anybody in the squad triggers a disorder, and this has no internal cooldown. 2 with EX special attack, can be up to 4 if we like chain them together, but never chain them together if that will overcap you on Fallen Frost. And then we also gain 3 every time she does her ultimate. And when we look at the Mindscapes, some of the Mindscapes will also help out with giving you more Fallen Frost for doing certain stuffs. So mastering Miyabi very much comes down to mastering the Fallen Frost charges, gathering them, using them with Shimotsuki, and gathering them anew. And the faster you can get this rotation cycle down, the better. The Shimotsuki really is the hard hitter, and Miyabi is immune to damage while she's charging this one up. So like it does take a little bit of time to hit off, but you're impervious to damage. So let's talk some general rotations and combat tips when it comes to Miyabi. Miyabi gains 3 points of Fallen Frost whenever she enters combat. Class, how many did she need in order to do a fully upgraded Shimotsuki? That's right, she needs 6. So we're just 3 shorts whenever we enter combat. So the opener I found to work the absolute freaking best is dash in, approach an enemy, of course apply any buffs that you need to apply. Then you do her full attack string. So basic attack 1, 2, then 3. On the 3rd one, she starts doing frost damage, and that afflicts the enemy with ice fire. And when an enemy is afflicted with ice fire, remember her frost anomaly buildups against that enemy skyrockets, scaling with their crit rate. So basic attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After that, we do an EX special, dashes through the enemy. Most enemies at this point, they will be afflicted with frostbite, and that will trigger Miyabi's Frostburn Break. That deals a big chunk of damage, and it also gives us 1 point of Fallen Frost, and we get 2 points from doing our EX special. So bada bing, bada boom, we now have 6 points of Fallen Frost. We can do the hold attack button and do a fully charged out Shimotsuki. And most enemies after this treatment, they are already dead. Some big ones will still be standing. So the way we now proceed, is the enemy still standing? If yes, then we switch into our other disorder character, because the enemy that's now suffered from Miyabi's Frostburn Break, they are now in the Frostburn state, which, remember, that means that any agent get a boost to their anomaly build-up rate towards that target. So if we have Yanagi, we send in Yanagi and we make her proc her shocked effect, and we make her proc a disorder. If we have Bernice, we send in Bernice, and we make sure that she burns the enemy until it starts burning and the disorder is triggered. Then it's Miyabi's turn again. She will have extra points of Fallen Frost because we just cast disorders. So if we're sitting at 4 points, we do 1 EX special to gain 6 back, then Shimotsuki. As soon as we trigger the next Frostburn Break, we switch back into our other anomaly agent that triggered disorder again, then back to Miyabi, and this is kind of the dance you have to. This is kind of the dance we're doing when we're playing a Miyabi team. Alright, so that is what we do if the enemy is still standing after our initial opener on them. But in many cases, in a lot of content in the game, there will be a trash wave and then a final boss will spawn, like a notorious hunt, and most of the critical she use works in this way. And if so, this opener will take care of that trash spawn, and the fully charged up Shimotsuki will kill all of the trash enemies, and the big bad boss will spawn. So how do we adjust to this? Well, in that case, I kind of want you to stay on Miyabi, because we want to be applying ice fire, then a frostbite to this new enemy, so that this new enemy gets Frostburn Break, so that they suffer from the Frostburn state. Class, what did Frostburn do? Well, the Frostburn state makes it so that any of our team members have an easier time applying their anomaly effect. If you're out of energy, have no fear, Miyabi's basic attack string does apply a decent amount of frost anomaly buildup, thanks to it being heavily boosted by her crit rate, and usually once you've reached enough energy to do an EX special. Doing that EX special for the boss will apply them with Frostbite. And once the Frostbite is applied, we can switch into our other anomaly character. That anomaly character can with ease build up their anomaly and trigger shock, burn, whatever, depending on the class. And by that point, Miyabi will probably have 6 Fallen Frost stacks and we can do a full Shimotsuki, and that is kind of the rotation. And now when it comes to which skills to upgrade, the game provides us with a good upgrade suggestion, and I fully agree with it. Core skill, like we want the core skill, we want the basic attack, because that's where we get the most of the Shimotsuki, and remember that's the most of our damage, and after that, ultimate. After that, EX special, and then the swap in, and her dodge isn't really too fancy, not really too needed. Same with the switch in, like the assist, but the assist is nothing special. So, but yeah, the big one, basic attack and core skill and ultimate. EX special is good, but it's most there for the Fallen Frost management. And now let's go over her best drive discs. So, patch 1.4 actually comes with 2 new sets. One of them is Branch and the Blade Song. And as you can probably see, this one actually has Miyabi's little familiar, her little eye firing on it. So everybody's gonna see this and assume that this is her very best set, right? Well, yes, but also yes, maybe. Kinda. So, 2-piece increases crit damage by 16%, 4-piece when Anomaly Mastery exceeds or equals 115. The equipper's crit damage increases by another 30%, so 46 in total. When any squad member applies freeze or triggers the shatter effect on an enemy, the equipper's crit rate increases by 12%, lasting 15 seconds. So, this one is obviously tailor-made with Miyabi in mind. Without running Anomaly Master on her disc 6, she reaches 116. Very convenient, right? So, yeah. And any other ice character doesn't do this. Ellen is at 94. So this set is only really usable on Miyabi. And it is good for like several reasons. And the biggest one is that it provides you with 12% crit rate. Now, Miyabi has an insanely high requirement of like 80% crit rate if you wanna get the most out of her. And this one helps out by quite a bunch. Like you run this together with a 2-piece Woodpecker Electro, which gives you also 8% crit rate. Then we've kind of passively accumulated 20% crit rate just from that. And if you're not pulling for Miyabi's engine, I'd say stick with Branch and Blade Song, otherwise you're gonna have a really hard time reaching up to the 80% crit rate. But if you're going for the engine, or if you're just looking for another set, maybe until you have a good Branch and Blade Song, Polar Metal is actually very, very competitive. I've done extensive testing with a 4-piece Branch and Blade Song, 4-piece Polar, 4-piece Woodpecker Electro, 4-piece Puffer, and Polar actually is the set that wins out if you have her engine. Although it is very close between Polar and Blade Song, Polar wins out by like a teeny little smidge. From all of the testing I've done, they usually end up in the same second, but so it's down to like a split second, but that split second is almost always in favor of Polar Metal, but that is if you have the engine. But they are so freaking neck and neck, so like go for whichever one you want. But I think a lot of people are disregarding Polar, like just, you know, thinking that this is trash. Polar Metal is absolutely broken on her because it increases basic attack damage by 40% after a shatter or freeze is triggered. And class, where do we find Miyabi's like highest damage? Well, her Shimotsuki stance. So this one buffs her hardest hitting ability by 40%. It's obviously goated on her. But for the simple fact that we need a lot of crit rate, Branch and Blade Song is very convenient. And for the discs, disc 6, you run attack percentage. On disc 5, you want pen and ratio. Ice damage bonus and attack percentage works, but pen ratio is gonna give you more damage. On disc 4, you want either crit damage or crit rate, depending on how much help do you need to reach the 80%. In the best of worlds, where what I'm kind of trying for is reaching an 80% crit rate while retaining a crit damage on disc 4, just to bump crit damage up. But that is gonna require a lot of like lucky rolls on the substats on all of the other discs. So yeah, crit rate or crit damage, depending on how far you are away from 80%. And when it comes to substats, what we're looking for is crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage, and then anomaly proficiency in that order. And as for Miyabi's engines, we do have some options. Her signature one is Hailstorm Shrine, and this is a really good one. It is the only anomaly engine that has crit rate. It passively increases crit damage by 50%, and when using an EX special or when any squad members applies an attribute anomaly to an enemy, the equipper's ice damage increases by 20%, stacking up to 4 times, lasting 15 seconds. So we can get an extra 40% ice damage this way as well. This is of course like a very good engine. It is gonna be our best engine. It helps out with reaching the crit rate threshold, but you can absolutely make do without it. From my extensive testing, I found that Fusion Compiler is a very viable option. It is about 85% as good as their signature one, so it's a drop-off of 50%. So it is still very good. Don't feel like you need to pull from Miyabi's engine. And when it comes to her best A-rank engine, this one took me a little bit by surprise, but her best A-rank engine is Roaring Ride. Now this is Piper's signature engine, you could call it. And this one gives attack, anomaly proficiency, and anomaly build-up rate. And normally only Piper makes use of this one, but Miyabi is in a little bit of a special situation, especially when you do her double EX click. That attack animation is long enough and it has enough hits to actually trigger all of these bonuses. And I found that the Roaring Ride clocks in at a 76% in comparison to the signature one, so 24% worse than the signature one, but you know, still very, very viable. After that we have Electro Lip Gloss clocking in at 74% of the signature ones, so a drop off of 26%. After that, Rainforest Gourmet at a 30% drop off, so it's sitting at a 70% efficiency. And after that we have the Weeping Gemini sitting at 65% of the performance that we get with the signature one. So Weeping is going to be your worst one. If you're severely lacking, go Rainforest in that case, because you can get this from the gadget store. But if you have access to Piper, this is going to be like the best A-rank engine. And if you have gotten a Fusion Compiler, smack that on. This is a very good engine for her. So when it comes to Miyabi's teams, I've assembled a few examples here that we can take a look at. For the first team, Miyabi, Lighter, and Harumasa. Now, Miyabi can make use of Lighter's amazing ice damage buff, and this is a team that can do that. Harumasa likes to be paired up with someone that is good at afflicting anomaly abilities, which Miyabi is. So like, this is a solid team. Mostly Miyabi want to be paired up with like other anomaly agents so that disorders can happen quickly. That's why Yanagi is her best teammate. Another team that also incorporates Lighter would be Miyabi, Lucy, and Lighter. Also a good team. In this team you might want to slap an anomaly mastery on Lucy if you can spare the attack slot. But if you still need more attack in order to reach the max cap of Lucy's buff, go attack. Now another strong team that I've been running a lot is Yanagi, Miyabi, and Rina with an Agent Gulliver. Both Rina and Yanagi, same elements, so they help out building shock, and the pen buff from Rina really goes a long way on Miyabi. Another fun one you can use is Miyabi, Caesar, Sokagu. This is a very solid team. We run Sharkboo because Miyabi, for all intents and purposes, counts as an ice agent, so the entirety of Sharkboo gets used. Another one, if you want to be using Bernice, it could look like Miyabi, Lucy, and Breeze with a red Mokus. Also very strong, very solid team. Another team that the game kind of puts you in with, if you do a cooperation exercise, is Miyabi, Lucy, and Piper. This is probably Miyabi's like most free-to-play accessible team. It's quite a solid one. I do love my Calendon gals, and this team performs surprisingly well. Another one you could go is Miyabi, Seth, and Rina. Now, we don't hunt for anomaly proficiency when it comes to Miyabi's gear, but she can definitely make use of it. And once again, Rina is here to supply her awesome pen ratio buff. Another team you could do if you want to like incorporate Jane could look like Miyabi, Rina, and Jane. Another one, Miyabi, Yanagi, and Sokagu with an Agent Gulliver. Full Section 6 team, I think it's fun to like, you know, run the full squad together. Works really well. Miyabi can make super use of Sokagu's amazing buff. And like I said, Yanagi is Miyabi's best teammate. And also one that I've been running the most, anybody that's been with the channel for a while knows that I love Caesar. And this Miyabi, Caesar, and Yanagi makes perfect use of everybody. I like the Caesar, like, she's kind of like Bernice. She doesn't require too much field time. She just applies her shield, applies her buff, and sometimes comes in and debuff the enemies, but otherwise you don't see much of her. That is perfect because that gives Miyabi and Yanagi all the more time to shine. So yeah, those are the teams. Onwards. And for the next part, let's pretend that we have money and look at their cinema Mindscapes. So, you don't need any cinema to like get Miyabi to work, But certain ones are definitely a big spike in power, especially 1 and 2. So, Cinema 1. While in the Shimotsuki stance, every 1 point of Fallen Frost consumed will allow basic attack Shimotsuki to ignore 6% of defense, stacking up to 6 times and lasting until Shimotsuki stance ends. When a charge level 3 slash of basic attack Shimotsuki hits an enemy suffering frostburn, it will immediately remove the frostburn state and increase all squad members' anomaly build-up rate by 20% for 10 seconds. So this one is absolutely freaking insane. So this one allows your Shimotsuki to ignore 36% of an enemy's defense. You stack this on like even more pen ratio, and dude, this one is just silly. It's just stupid. This is probably like just her best one, apart from her M6. Absolutely nutty. Definitely a good one to go for. Gonna be a big boost in damage. Cinema 2, basic attack Kasahana, which is just her basic attack string, and dodge counter damage increased by 30%. Hoshimi Miyabi gains 1 point of Fallen Frost when the final move of the 5th hit of the basic attack Kasahana hits an enemy. Also, like, stupid strong. Upon entering the battlefield, Hoshimi Miyabi immediately obtains 6 points of Fallen Frost and the crit rate increases by 15%. So, like, this one is also stupid strong with everything it does. One, it lowers like how much crit rate we need to build on her by 15, because we will just have 15 immediately whenever we enter combat. Obviously good, but like the big thing about this one is that now if we just do her full attack spring, we will get 1 stack of Fallen Frost, which this is stupid strong. This is stupid strong. So yeah, if you're going for any cinemas, I would say, like, you know, this is the stopping point. 1 is also amazing, like you don't need to go for 2, but me personally, if I had any money, I would probably, you know, go for 2 and stop there. 3 is your standard one, just decreases levels on everything. Then we have the 4th one, Rupture, Frostburn, break damage increased by 30%. Upon triggering Frostburn break, Hoshimi Miyabi generates 250 more decibels. Now this one is also quite insane. I don't think that we have like ever seen a Mindscape that gives you more decibels. And, you know, triggering Frostburn break, which is, you know, what happens when an enemy gets frostbitten. Like, I assume that this one just goes silly if you have, you know, a bunch of small minions that, like, you have 5 ones, you know, that this trigger on. That's basically an ultimate. Just, you know, thank you very much. Also, also really strong for M4. Usually the M4s are kinda, a little bit mid, but this one is honestly also insane. As for Miyabi's M6, during Shimotsuki stance, Hoshimi Miyabi obtains Polar, which increases basic attack Shimotsuki damage by 30%. After obtaining Polar, Hoshimi Miyabi will automatically draw her blade and unleash a powerful slash, or unleash powerful slashes based on the current charge level upon consuming Fallen Frost. Before Fallen Frost is completely depleted, the draw and slashes will not interrupt charging under Shimotsuki stance. Each occurrence of Shimotsuki stance can perform up to 3 draws and slashes. So this one makes her Shimotsuki stance a lot more flashier, and I've seen some people be a little bit angry that, you know, a really cool effect, like, yeah, a really cool visual effect is hidden behind an M6, but you know what? Anybody that goes for this has spent probably more than $1,000. They can have some more slashes. Obviously this one is also pretty, you know, absolutely insane. And yeah, all of Miyabi's Mindscapes are worth it. None of them are needed, but 1 and 2 are like exceptionally worth it. But once again, you don't need any of them. Whew, everybody, guide is over. This is the most ambitious guide I've ever done. I really wanted to knock it out of the park for you peeps, because I know that the excitement level for Miyabi is, you know, through the goddamn roof. So I hope that you found the guide, you know, helpful and informative. This has taken me like days to make. I've re-recorded so many parts because I felt like they were going a little bit slow. And it's just a lot to like put together to like make the overlay nice and tidy for you all, like informative and fun. So yeah, if you in some shape or form enjoy the video, I could really do with that thumbs up. And I cover Zenless content every goddamn day. So if you're into that kind of stuff, maybe subscribe to the channel. And all of the footage, all of my testing has been on the creator beta server, so, you know, everything is prone to change. But if there's any changes, before she's out, I will of course adjust the content accordingly. But I just need to put that out there. And if you still feel a little bit unsure and confused about Miyabi, you can come and find me on Twitch. I live stream there kind of daily. So, like, no matter what I'm playing, please feel super free to pop in and ask your Miyabi question, and I will help out as much as I can. But remember, peeps, Shimotsuki stance is our go-to. We always want 6 charges of Fallen Frost. Never use it beforehand. Don't overcap on Fallen Frost. Anomaly Agents is her best friend. We want 80% crit rate. Polar Metal is a good substitute for Branch and Blade Song until you have a good Branch and Blade Song. The Roaring Ride is a really good A-rank engine for her. Otherwise, the Fusion Compiler also slaps. So, yeah. Everybody, thank you so freaking much for watching my very lengthy, in-depth Miyabi guide. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. Until next time, your friendly neighborhood Hako out.